Picture this. You're at your neighbor's son's birthday party. Everyone's having a good time. The kids are laughing, the elders are bragging about their son being a doctor. Everyone's having some good family and friends fun. Your neighbor asks you if you'd like some more Coke. You say, of course, I haven't seen the dentist in a while. Why not? You reach out with your plastic cup. But as he starts pouring, whoops! His hand slips and he pours it all over your pants, making it seem like you peed yourself. Everyone immediately stops what they're doing and starts laughing at you. What do? A. Laugh it off and dry yourself. B. Tell the neighbor to watch it next time. Or C. Kill his eldest son to avenge your honor. Well, if you're from a rural village in the middle of nowhere from one of these three countries, the only rational option is C. This is known as a blood debt, a part of an infamous tradition known as a blood feud. According to endemic tradition from these regions, if a member of your family is murdered, sexually assaulted, had their land infringed on, or his honor gravely insulted, it gives you the right to kill a member of the offender's family in an effort to seek justice. But where did this tradition come from, and how does it still remain alive in Europe today? To understand this, we first have to take a look at the geography. As I mentioned before, the tradition of blood feuds is present mainly in the territories of Montenegro, Albania, and Schrodinger's country known as Kosovo. The region is characterized by rugged tall mountains and thick forests. In society building terms, playing on hardcore difficulty. Growing food is quite difficult due to most of the soil lying on hard rock. Developing infrastructure is also a major pain in the keister. Going from one village to a nearby town would be no walk in the park, but rather the equivalent of your dad's journey from home to school. As such, the people who settled in these highly mountainous regions of the Balkans, known as the Dinaric Alps, had to develop certain ways of life if they were to survive. One such adaptation was a clan-based society. Families were tightly knit together, acting as a unit rather than a group of individuals. Each family member was tasked with a role to ensure their family's survival. In medieval times, women were allocated to working the fields and producing food, while the men were brought up to be warriors. As resources were scarce, often different families would go to war with one another, raiding each other's clans for food and riches. If they weren't fighting each other, they'd engage in banditry against the Ottomans, Venetians, and other would-be invaders like the Austrians. Being hard to reach, it was difficult for any kingdom or empire to enforce its laws and customs upon the people living here, which in turn spawned a unique tribal government and way of life in the Dinaric Alps, where the local chiefs were responsible for the protection of their people and the enforcement of justice. As there were many clans, there were many different variations of local laws. However, in the 15th century, a standardized code of law was codified in northern and central Albania. Known as the Kanun, the code was created by an Albanian noble, Leke Dugagjini, who compiled centuries of oral judicial code into a single one. The Kanun consisted of 12 books and over 1,200 articles, and dictated laws regarding family, property, honor, hospitality, and everything and anything in between. But most importantly, it established how to deal with any would-be dexters. If someone killed someone else, justice was to be taken into the community's hands. Murdering a person wasn't seen as a crime between individuals, but a crime between clans, meaning that the entire murderer's family would be held responsible. To avenge this crime, there were three options. The perpetrator's family could pay money to the family of the deceased, securing forgiveness from the church, and the deceased's family murdering a member of the killer's family. In most cases, the victim's family would opt for option number 3. But it wasn't just as simple as showing up to their house, wrapping them up in plastic, and giving them some monologue while showing them a picture of the deceased. No. There were rules. First and foremost, you could only kill a male member of the family. Girls had cooties, so they were off limits. Secondly, the sacrificial lamb had to be over 18. If you can't kill kids in Skyrim, you can't kill them in Albania. And thirdly, you can't kill them in their own home. You wanna play serial killer? Then you gotta follow them with your car and kill them in a gas station bathroom like one. But violence isn't always the answer. Talking things out can prevent needless bloodshed between neighbors. But what if they don't speak the same language as you? Well, that's where FluentU comes in. FluentU is an app and website that makes the language learning experience much more enjoyable and seamless by using real videos, like movies and TV shows, music videos, news clips, you know, stuff you'd actually want to watch. I can get interactive subtitles, and if I don't know a word, just hover over it. And FluentU instantly gives me the definition, an image, pronunciation, example sentences, and even shows you other videos where the word is used. It's incredible for building vocabulary naturally, and get this, they have a Chrome extension that lets me do the same thing on Netflix movies and shows. I'm able to watch my favorite shows in Russian and learn from it at the same time. Or I can do the same with YouTube videos that have subtitles. I can even scroll through the app's curated video libraries suitable for beginner and intermediate level learners. Currently, FluentU supports 10 languages, including Russian, German, and Italian, making it perfect for anyone wishing to fulfill their Balkan destiny and working at a Baustelle in Western Europe. Hell, they even have Korean and Japanese, so you can defend your favorite K-pop or J-pop idol in their native language. It's not just about watching content and looking up words. If I'd want to really hone in on learning languages efficiently, FluentU has this really smart review system with quizzes that builds me up from understanding words to actually forming sentences. It's available on web, iOS, and Android too. Click on the link in the description and get a free 14-day trial and a 40% discount after. If you're serious about mastering a language and want a way to stay motivated using authentic content, I can't recommend FluentU more. It's a true game changer for learning any language. So don't waste any time and check out FluentU today. When Duca Genie came up with the Kanun, he and everyone around him thought that it seemed reasonable. They patted him on the back, gave him the medieval Albanian equivalent of the Nobel's Peace Prize, and declared a new era of peace and prosperity. But Duca Genie made a fatal mistake with the Kanun. He didn't f***ing write it down. Since its conception, the Kanun's laws were transmitted orally, which, let's be real, in a mountainous region that's hard to reach by outsiders is a horrible decision. Essentially, the clans played a giant game of telephone with their most important laws. This went on for nearly 5 centuries, until finally some guy thought to himself in the 20th century, hey, maybe we should write this down. Over time, this led to the interpretation of the Kanun to change. For example, the killing of minors and within one's home became practiced even though originally it wasn't deemed as fair game. Secondly, Duca Genie overlooked another crucial detail. Balkaners would rather spend eternity being waterboarded in Guantanamo than take personal responsibility. Okay, that's not even a Balkan thing, but a general people thing. But in a region where everyone sees themselves as a perpetual victim of circumstance and their neighbors as the epitome of Satan himself, this had catastrophic consequences. Let's say Ethan from the Klein family decides one stormy night to kill Hassan of the Piker family. Hassan was talking shit, probably said something like his chess skills were ass, so Ethan waited in an alley behind the pub and stabbed him 5 times. Hassan's brother was at the pub and saw a glance of Ethan's face, so the Piker family now has a blood debt from the Klein family. But here's the problem. Ethan's clan vouches for him, saying he'd never hurt a fly and deny he killed Hassan. The Pikers don't care and catch one of the Kleins lacking in the street and bonk him on the head with a club until his brain becomes porridge. In the minds of the Pikers, the blood feud has been settled. They killed one of the perpetrators and it's over. But that's not the case. As the clans believed they never wronged the pikers, they now see that their family owes them a blood debt. So, what do? They kill one of the pikers. As a result, blood feuds became a generation-spanning occurrence. Entire families spent generations killing each other due to the belief someone centuries ago wronged their clan. A lot of the time, the original reason would be forgotten, with the two clans just going at each other for ages. This gruesome tradition prevailed for centuries up until the 20th century. Although communism has brought many negatives, it did bring some positives as well, one of those being the elimination of blood feuds. Thanks to the authoritarian rules of Enver Hoxha and Tito, and the ruthless punishments for any small infringement of the law, let alone murder, blood feuds vanished. Life imprisonment in a gulag whilst undergoing famine and torture didn't seem worth it just to enact revenge on some guy whose great-great-great-great-grandpa shot yours. When socialism fell, so did a strict rule of law with it. With the states going into disarray, many returned to their old ways of life before communism was imposed onto them, praying to long-forgotten gods, opening up their own shops, and most importantly, settling scores with their neighbors. It also didn't help that Yugoslavia erupted into an absolute shit show in the 90s, which additionally made policing these rural areas even more difficult. In an effort to escape this chaos, those with a blood debt sought to leave their home countries and seek refuge in the Americas and Western Europe. But clans that were owed blood would often send one of their own to their new country to track them down and settle the score, which made blood feuds even spill over into America for a bit. After the transition period was over and the re-establishment of state law enforcement, blood feud incidents decreased. In 1970, the region of Montenegro known as Malaysia, the Albanian community officially made an agreement that declared this tradition over. Other local communities in Albania and Kosovo also had several gatherings where community leaders sought to disband this practice. Church leaders and mediators actively seek to discourage feuds. Some of their methods include bringing the would-be victim to the indebted families and asking the head to murder him then and there as he's looking into his eyes. Another one is to bring a baby from the indebted family, put it on its head in front of the house. In that position, if left unturned, the child would die in 2 minutes due to suffocation. Although these methods seem gruesome, they have been quite effective with the families being able to relinquish a debt when faced with personal responsibility for an innocent's life. Unfortunately, although there are much fewer incidents than before, this ancient tradition still persists to this day, as it's difficult to gather statistics on the practice of this tradition due to occurring in mainly rural, hard-to-reach areas amongst a population mistrustful of government institutions. Estimates of those affected today vary. On the higher end, it is believed that there are over 500 families in Northern Albania that are in a blood feud, while lower estimates say less than 100. Its persistence has led to the creation of a severely disenfranchised class of society. Families owing a blood debt live in isolation. The men in the family are unable to work or leave the house due to the threat of being murdered. Thus, the women are tasked as the primary breadwinners. But as jobs are limited in rural areas, what they are able to earn is not enough to support an entire family, leading to these families living in severe poverty. The children of feuding families are the most affected. Although according to the original declaration of the Kanun, kids should be off limits in these killings, the law over the centuries has been corrupted, making male children valid targets. As such, there are many young boys that are forced to live their entire childhood in their own houses, because if they'd potentially step out to go to school or play with the other neighborhood kids, they run the risk of being killed to settle the feud. Being unable to get an education and growing up in poverty, kids that grew up in these conditions often turn to crime in an effort to sustain themselves, which just reinforces this nasty cycle. But luckily, this tradition has been on a steady decline. Many NGOs, communities, and government institutions have actively been working on eradicating this tradition. Many rural communities where this ancient law was prevalent have adopted the belief that state punishment and prosecution of the perpetrator is settling the blood debt. Extradition treaties between Albania and the West have also helped in disbanding blood feuds, as perpetrators will be held responsible abroad for their crime as well. And hopefully, in the near future, this tradition will be eradicated completely.